Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, thank you for joining us for another episode of All the Angles, the Business of Padel podcast worldwide, powered by the Hexagon Cup. This week, our objective is to give you, our audience, a unique insight into Hexagon Cup 2025. I'm joined this episode by Astrid Thams and Sergio Lewin, 2 months after the 2025 edition ended, and we're fortunate enough to explore with them. So starting off with Astrid, she's a returning visitor to this podcast. She's the managing director of Hexagon Cup. And before that, in a previous life, she's been a licensing and retail guru in the sports sector, working with Real Madrid for 3 years, with Adidas for 7 years, and then Fanatics most recently for 5 years before joining the Hexagon Cup. And alongside her, we have Sergio, who is the COO and co-founder of the Hexagon Cup. He started his career around TV production, but he's now spent almost 20 years in and around sports-related marketing, including for companies like PDG, Best of You, IM Sports Solutions, with a real focus on sports rights management. So thank you both for joining us. Before we get started, if you enjoy this episode or have benefited from previous ones, please share, subscribe, it really helps. So without further ado, let's start looking at this second edition, this latest edition of the Hexagon Cup 2025. And let's start with the location. So my first questions really focus around the arena and the city. So Madrid obviously just hosted the second fantastic edition at the arena. Can either of you talk a little bit about why Madrid? And when I talk about Madrid, I mean both as a public government stakeholder, but also as just a location and population. Why has Madrid been so key to the start of this project's runway as you've set the event there for the first 2 years of its life?
Okay, thanks for having us, Alex, first of all. It was a natural decision to go with Madrid as the first location. At the end, Madrid is the epicenter of Padel. It's the capital of Padel at a global view. And that's because we have the fans. Spain is full with fans willing to spend time and money in an event like ours. And of course, the city itself, it's a big capital. It has the venue options you need. This is a very important thing. Not every city it has the facilities to make an event with 7,000 people watching padel. It's not easy. And those two elements with the institutional support, that is another critical thing, were the key elements to take this decision. With an event like ours, top padel event, but with the fan engagement, with the fan zone and the non-sporting side, the entertainment side, what you need is to have a solid foundations of attendance, fans, to bring some value to the proposition, to bring not just the endemic brands and the endemic ecosystem of padel, but also the non-endemic brands and the non-natural fans of padel. And for that, you need to have, as I said, a foundation with the fans, the padel fans, and putting into the equation the newcomers that can be new sponsors and new fans that are willing to have some fun in the fan zone. But as you said, public governance it's a critical thing in this equation.
Maybe just to add on, hi Alex, nice to see you again. To add on what Sergio was saying, for the type of event that we're doing, apart of having this year over 30,000 people attending, we don't see the Hexagon Cup, although it's based in Madrid, as a very Spanish event. If we go through the people who were attending, we had lots of people traveling from all over the world coming, both investors, club owners and everything. Yes, we have these local fan base that is going to be attending physically there, but still we see that all the attraction through the broadcast, digital that we see can be surrounded by the event as well.
And did you see a change, but did you also offer a change in the ticketing and the hospitality between 2024 and 2025? Was there a evolution between the first and the second edition?
Yes. We had both. Like we want to be able to have people there from 11 euros onwards, so that everyone can be attending. It should not be something too exclusive for people not to be able to come. So for this second edition, we lowered our prices from a grandstand point of view, which had as well the positive impact that not just the lower prices, but the event in general was sold out for over the weekend, already having, as we said, more than 30,000 people attending. But on the hospitality side, we saw that we introduced the corporate boxes concept that we did not have in the first edition. We had VIP and grandstands. This year we did it even more hospitality driven through the concept of corporate boxes, where we had over 70 different ones. So we see that this appetite of a corporate world coming into Padel is there. And so we had local companies coming, but we had as well people from the UK buying boxes are coming, people from the US. So different kind of nationalities coming for this high-end, if you want to say, corporate box experience that we offer. That was different from the first edition to the second edition from a ticketing point of view and had very positive results.
And is Madrid the long-term partner for the Hexagon Cup, or are there any conversations about seeing where the Hexagon Cup can land in future editions?
For the long term, Madrid is the perfect starting point. It's a place where you can grow and you can show the kind of event you are delivering. But as Astrid said, this is not a Spanish tournament. This is an international tournament. Astrid is based in London. I am in Madrid, but we are looking into different options. And Madrid, for us, it's a natural place to be. And with the institutional involvement, we are very happy to stay here, but we are not limited to be in Madrid. We are willing to take steps in other territories, regions, and actually it's something that it's coming for sure.
I think to be able to have the atmosphere of the event that we like to have, you need to be in a place where you have that amount of fans coming. Madrid is offering that definitely. But of course, if this evolves and there are other Padel hubs, if we want to call it like that, somewhere else, we could definitely then potentially go there. But I would say short/midterm, as well with the institutional relationship that we have in Madrid, it's a good option for us.
Got it. So let's move on a little bit to the commercial aspects of the business and the product. So let's start with sponsorships. Again, how has the sponsorship proposition evolved over the last few years? Myself, having been to both editions, the big difference that I saw was Alpine really stepping up their activation on site. They had the car courtside, but they also took out this incredible hospitality space in the neighboring pavilion, which was incredibly well activated with merchandise, cars, logos, history. It felt like a great showcase for the brand, especially considering the kind of people that were going to be walking through that area. So that was the biggest one that I noticed, but obviously there's a lot of stuff that is not necessarily that obvious or that visible. But if you could give us a kind of a snapshot of how the brand has evolved in terms of the proposition to sponsors.
Sure. Yes, as you say, Alpine moved from just being our official car to being our title sponsor. The good thing is that it wasn't only them. Most of the sponsors of the first edition wanted to continue to be part of our proposition. Okay, so we have at the end Alpine as title sponsor. We have Mao, the Spanish beer company, as our other main partner, and then we enter into a sponsorship pyramid, if you want to call it like that, where we had over 22 sponsors this year. We were able to increase our sponsorship revenue by double, like we doubled it from the first edition to this second edition. And as well, if we go into the sponsorship value, we could see the same. We were close of hitting the 120 million sponsorship value this year. We were having not just I think Sergio called it endemic, but not just the brands that are traditionally already placed in Padel, but we're able to attract other ones and more global brands this year, as JBL were there with all the sound systems, or Bank, which is a Netherlands, Neobank, I think you call them. So there are already brands coming to invest into Padel. Everyone knows it's the fastest growing sport, but then they need to start tapping into Padel as a sponsorship proposition. So from these 22 sponsors that we had this edition, most of them as well activated in our fan zone, making it a very interesting place for all the fans attending, where you had activations. We had a specific court set up there in the fan zone where all the brands could do different, not just content, but as well interact with the fans being there, as well throughout in the central court, throughout the tournament. There were as well every moment where we have free, there was engagement happening through the brands and the fans, so that it was attractive for
If I can add something, I think it's very interesting the way we work with brands. Being a competition as we are, like a boutique event that we are, it's easy for us, for Astrid and her team, to adjust propositions to make the most of the sponsorship, really. Brands, when they come, we did a corporate tournament, a competition inside the Hexagon Cup, just for our brands. And that's something that really brings a layer of networking, of intimacy and group sense that it's very powerful. And when you're experimenting the Hexagon Cup event as a sponsor, I think the deliver we do is, I think it's remarkable. Actually, I think it's something that you cannot have in other sports, you cannot have in other competitions, and that's a value that we are very happy to give to our partners.
And is the plan in 2026 to increase the number of sponsors, or to actually maybe make the number of sponsors smaller but deeper? Because there are different schools of thought. Some people are quantity, some people are quality, some people...
No, definitely we still have, I mean, Padel is starting and we are starting. So there's still main categories that we are looking to expand. Yes, of course, there's depending on the level of sponsorship that we enter, you have different assets, but definitely we're still looking into growing both deeper and broader, if that's your question.
And then just to touch on broadcasters, I think last year you had about 28 broadcast partners in 2024. Can you talk a little bit about how that number has changed and whether the kind of the mix has changed? Are you looking for terrestrial? Are you looking for pay-per-view? Are you looking at social media platforms?
Definitely, as a key takeaway, it's brand awareness. Okay, and sport awareness, if you want to call it that. So in the point that Padel is right now and the Hexagon Cup is right now, the more brand awareness we can reach, the better. This reach is what we target. We had over 46 broadcast partners this second edition and managed to double here as well and hit the 4.6 million audience number in broadcasters, which is, I think, a growth of over 80% of what we had in the first edition, which is definitely our strategy. And what we're looking into, I hope to assume that most of the listeners of the podcast know, but we as Hexagon, the idea behind it, having the celebrity owners that we have, is to, through their social media channels as well, be able to have the biggest impact in all the digital world as well. So for this social media impact, we reached the 48 million video views for the Hexagon Cup this year, which is everyone involved, like all the celebrity owners when they were streaming, when they're connecting. So all our partners, so everything that put Padel and the Hexagon Cup in the digital environment, which is key for us. We also put special value into our own YouTube channel, where we had 2 million viewers as well here this year. So yeah, good numbers, as you would say, for the strategy. We want everyone to be able to access our live broadcasting, which excludes us normally from going to any pay-per-view exclusive contract that we could reach.
And you touched on the content strategy just in that answer, which seems obviously quite critical, because in today's age, you need that content strategy as part of a wider social media strategy, and that's critical for visibility, buzz, curiosity, engagement. Can you talk a little bit more about how Hexagon approaches that piece and how important the owners are, but also beyond the owners? Because obviously there are other content creators around the world of Padel, whether it's Fourth Set, the other guys in Spain or outside who are creating content in and around coaching, in and around gossip, in and around players. How do you try and integrate them into the Hexagon story and the Hexagon visibility?
Sure. So 100%. So content creators is a main part of our marketing strategy as well. So at the end, when we look at what we have, what are our assets? We have our celebrity owners, we have their friends. Okay, so we had a Star Cup happening throughout Hexagon where you had Pierre Gasly playing with his friend, where you had Varane coming to play. It's like our celebrity owners attracting other people from other sports, like other football players, other Formula One drivers, and so on. So this is clearly one side that we push a lot to have that support. On the influencer and content creator side, they're absolutely part of our strategy as well, to the point that we had them activating at Hexagon, we had them working with us, because the good thing is that most of them play Padel, which is the beauty potentially of the sport, that it's an easy entry sport, lots of people play. So not just with other sports people, but as well with content creators, they clearly play. So they come to Hexagon and they engage with the people there and they play. And we are now looking into this is a exclusive that we're looking into doing an Hexagon content creator, if you want to say, cup, where we will have content creators playing with next generation players to have even younger content driven approach there. So to that point, we understand them as a key part of our content.
I like that. It's a good idea.
We had non-Padel content creators in Hexagon Cup because of their love for the sport, because as we all know, Padel grows in you and it becomes like an obsession. There are a lot of people out there willing to do things with Padel, and with the content creators, we were able to bring non-endemic content creators to support and make Padel and Hexagon as big as it gets.
A last question on the broadcast piece is the production side. So I understand that the production team changed between 2024 and 2025. Can you talk a little bit about how that affected what viewers at home saw, and also touch on how important data and data presentation is to the Hexagon brand, frankly, because I put a post up about it at the time with the heat map in hexagons being a really important piece of informing the fans about what's happening on court, but also a way of obviously enforcing the brand identity. As obviously, Sergio, you're showing beautifully yourself with your own background, hexagons are pretty critical to the Hexagon Cup. So anywhere the hexagons appear, it just keeps a nice continuity and professionalism for the visibility of the brand. So can you talk a little bit about how the production overlay is a critical piece of the mix?
Yeah, I think we did improve the broadcasting production. There are some challenges producing Padel. It's not easy to bring data into broadcasting because it's not like tennis that you have 30 seconds between serves. Here, the speed of the game is much higher, so you cannot even put long replays. So it's a challenge to improve the delivery. Actually, I think we took a step up. And we are trying to bring some education to the broadcasting, trying to reach new markets and trying to educate them into Padel. And that's something that we did with Sandy and obviously with Mauri as a speaker. But yeah, what we try to achieve in the broadcasting production is to give the sense of what you are living at the arena, that it's not easy. Bringing the owners into the equation, that it's something very new and something that it adds a lot of value content. But as I said, it's not easy to put them on air because you don't have enough time to take advantage of the amount of content that you can create. So we are learning from that, and we are trying to make new formats and bring in new content for the social media, and also thinking about new contents in new platforms.
Let's turn now to the competition itself, the event itself. Let's start with the players. Can you talk a little bit about the players? So what is the feedback of the group? Because the opportunities that are available to them is changing drastically on a year-by-year basis. They obviously have the main tours, they have these international tournaments that FIP creates, they have exhibitions popping up left and center, India, America, France, it's all happening. So how do you continue to really get them to engage with the Hexagon Cup and really prioritize the Hexagon Cup at this important part of the season for them?
Yeah, at the end, the feedback from the players, it's super positive. This is a very unique event, not just for the fans or the sponsors, the corporate clients that we have, but also for them. At the end, they are playing with a pair that it's not the typical company that they had, and they have also the owners that are bringing a lot of value to them just because of knowing them, just because of the opportunities that are bringing to the players. At the end, these owners are willing to make an impact in Padel in their regions, and that's something that the player understands. They really value being in Hexagon, not just for the fun and the way we take care of them, because we take care of every detail and just for them to focus on enjoy and play, but also because they understand the opportunities that the network that we are bringing to the table can give to them. It is true that it's a pre-season tournament, and that may collide with their preparation, with their training, but we also take care of having the best facilities, the best gyms, courts for them to keep on with the pre-season schedule that they have. So at the end, the way we keep the talent is just taking care of them and bringing them a good tournament and a good, in a business view, a good opportunity for them. So you have been there. When you are in the VIP area, in the hospitality, and you see the players around, they are with a very happy face. And that's the sign that you want. Seeing happy faces and people enjoying. That's the key.
One of the things I love about the Hexagon Cup is it throws these different pairings that you don't see the same pair playing again and again. But I would have thought as a player, you're about to start the season, either you're an established pair like Coelho and Tapia, you really want to hit the ground running, you want to make a great impact in the first few tournaments of the season, or you're a brand new pair and you really want to bed yourself in together so that you can really hit the ground running at the beginning of the season. So my assumption would be that they don't want the distraction of playing with a completely different player before the season begins, but somehow it seems to work.
I think it's also that playing without your regular pair, it takes off a little of pressure. And you start the year competing in a super high level. Hexagon has top 16 players. So from the 8 pairs, you have the top players. Maybe you're missing a couple of them, but you're competing with the top, you can compete. But you're competing in a way that allows you to have, I don't know how to put this, mistakes. Okay, I was not with my partner, it was okay. This is giving me the chance to compete with the people I want to compete. And it's giving me some of practicing without the pressure of having to win. And that's something that I think is good for them too. So it's a way to begin the competition without the pressure of having to win from day one.
Mm-hmm. As we wrap up the competition piece, I wanted to touch on the NextGen section. So can you talk a little bit, first of all, about how you saw a difference between having the NextGen men last year and the NextGen women this year? Was there any kind of difference in terms of viewership or sponsor feedback or player feedback, just generally? And then the second part of the question is, I really want to drill a little bit into the final, right? So there was a lot of conversation around the idea that this whole event could be decided by a NextGen match. And the traditional way of thinking is that you usually try and build a crescendo to an event, right? Where the biggest players fighting in the biggest match for the decider. And this felt different because people were, what, wouldn't you have the professional women close the match, or wouldn't you have the professional men close the match? And you guys, obviously you had to make a conscious decision to say, do we continue with the structure, which means that if there is a decider, it's going to be NextGen, whether that's the final or the semi-final or whatever. And we accept that there might be surprise, or there might be pressure, or there might be commercial impact or viewership impact. It's difficult to predict, right? Because it's not been seen before. So I just would love to understand how you approach that position. Do we continue with what we've set? And if it's the NextGen that decides, it's the NextGen that decides. Was there a conversation like, do we need to change things? Do we need to change the order just in case it is a decider so that we finish on the grown-up pros, so to speak?
From the first consideration between male and female NextGen, the only consideration is a schedule-wise consideration. Female matches takes longer than male matches. That's the only consideration that we as a competition, we can see. We have the same view for the NextGen either way if it's male or female.
Yeah, just Alex, for everyone to understand, the fans voted that the first season that the next gen should be male, the first season. So we are very open always to having the fans being a center part of the competition. So it was decided by the fans through a vote. So that meant that it was female this year, woman. And from, as you say, from a sponsorship point of view, it's an extremely interesting category because you're in contact with, it's not grassroots, okay, but like really with the newcomers, with their 16, their 17, some of them are 19, because the rule that we set is that one under 18, one under 22, but you have as well 16-year-old ones. We saw a lot of interest from brands to sponsor the category and them concretely. We had, for example, this year IMG giving them a scholarship, a commercial scholarship, which was a very interesting approach of saying, hey, you're 16, I'm going to show you how to get better in social media, get better commercially. And we always say we are equal for men, for women, of course, but like giving the opportunity to this new generation players coming and letting them be there and sitting next to the rest of the team through all the matches. So it's big and it's truly inside of our NDA. Next year it's going to be male again. That doesn't mean that, of course, we're going to be using these other players that have participated already at Hexagon to do lots of other activations, as I was explaining you before. So yeah, definitely very interesting. The entire category, I wouldn't say more male or female. It's an interesting category.
And about the final, from an outsider perspective, it may be shocking to have the next gens with the tiebreaker game, but in order to give importance to each and every category that we have, the female, the males, and next gen, the only way to do it is this way: is having the, as you said, big pros playing the important matches, the first and the second match, and then having a tiebreaker with the next gen. This is the only way to make the equation work, because you want to give importance to the male category and the female category. If you have the next gens playing first, one of those games are going to be non-importance, because you can have a 2-0. So that's the way to put it. And for us, really, our proposition of value is giving chances to the next gen. It is true. We are doing our claim for the fans, for the players, for the game. It's something that we brought very thoughtfully. We put the fans and the players first. We really think about the newcomers as we want them to have a real opportunity to show their value. And this is, Padel is not as football, where you can be a big talent, and because you are in a roster of 21 and 11 players plays each game, you can have an opportunity to have 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Here it's not. You have to have the ideal pair in order to get into the quarterfinals, semifinals, and that's not easy for a newcomer. And this is something that we brought, thinking about the opportunities for the youngsters, and having the final with this tiebreaker, it was a natural thing. And at the end, we have to understand that Padel, the way I see it, we have to bring importance to the finals. The final in Doha is very similar to the final in Miami. Each tournament, they don't have a very big personality or very big history. With Hexagon, we are trying to bring something new, and part of that new thing that we are bringing is making next gen importance and giving them the opportunity to shine. If it brings a tiebreaker with a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old, that's great. You're watching the next stars, and that's true actually. You see Jothas, he was last year he was a next-gen player, and now he's competing at the highest level. Same Cardona. It's going to happen with the girls. I think it's a good opportunity.
So let's talk a little bit about the expansion of the Hexagon Cup. Obviously, in 2025, you added 2 franchises with Pierre Gasly's X brand, and then the Crew Padel with Tactica franchise with Sergio Aguero. Can you give a sense of how many people were interested in those 2 slots? And why did these two, how did they come out on top?
Quick on my side, like the rationale behind the owners is always territory and impact on paddle. Okay, so they need to come from a territory that we think are supporting the growth of paddle. I think one of the targets when Hexagon was founded as well was to support this growth of paddle as a sport and to make it Olympic. So you definitely need to be able to get awareness in different territories. So as the players are not there yet, okay, which is the next step that needs to come, if you want to have people cheering or supporting a team, if the owner comes from that location and it gives that impact, and then you have Eva Longoria from the US, or you have Andy Murray in the UK, you have Pierre Gasly in France, that's going to give the viewers, the broadcast viewers that are watching it, a more sense of belonging. And we've clearly seen how broadcast numbers get increased in these territories. Okay, that's clearly one key factor. And then the other one is that the team or the owners are going to be investing into paddle, be it in courts, in academies, and whatever, but that it's companies and people and celebrities who are going to be supporting this investment in all the different components that you have in the paddle industry. So that's the theory now that I've told you on paper how it works, and maybe Sergio, you want to give Alex a little bit more of a touch on why at the end we went with Gabriel from Tactica, Agüero and Messi, and the other one, as you said, with the French team from Pierre Gasly and Loic as an investor.
Yeah, it's what Astrid is saying. What we want is to bring value to Hexagon and Padel and make Padel grow in every region. And as we were talking previously about content creators, Kun Agüero, it's a very unique addition for us because he's a tremendous, well-known former player, football player, but he's also a content creator. And that combo is super interesting for us. This with Messi as a partner and having Gabriel Perez Cripps with Tactica Equity along, it was a no-brainer for us. It was a very simple choice for us to choose them to be part of Hexagon. And in case of Pierre and Loic, it's a super combo. Again, Loic Ferry is a president and owner of a football team in France. He knows the sport industry. He knows how to develop a property. And Pierre Gasly, he has a deep love for the game, and he was super excited to be part of Hexagon. So that combo for us, again, was a winner because having as a great entrepreneur and businessman with the knowledge that he has in sports, at the end, all these owners are partners of us and they help us to grow and they help us advising us, and we move together with Hexagon to next challenges. So, of course, there were other options. Year one, we had this amount of interested possibilities. Year two, we are having even more. But at the end, as Astrid said, it has to make sense. Maybe now we are looking for expand to new territories, to new places where Padel is growing because we think that it's going to be good for us and good for them. But again, it has to make sense in order to be part of Hexagon.
And is there a sense whether you guys are going to expand for 2026 at this stage? And the ultimate aim to have 12 franchises? And
yeah,
I'm just trying to get a sense of what's happening for 2026 and what's happening ultimately.
Yeah. What we thought at the beginning is having 10, 12 franchises as the most. But again, we did a Super League. The format that we are having nowadays, the Super League that we brought this edition, it's a solution that brings us the capacity to grow and with even numbers. We can be 9, we can be 11, or we can be 10, or we can be 12 teams in the competition. That's why we did the Super League, in order to be able to grow with no pressure. We don't need to be 10. We don't need to be 9 neither. We are going to take steps as they come and taking the decisions with all these rationales that Astrid said.
I think, Alex, you asked. Yes, we are in conversations with a couple of others, couple, not two, like more. that are interested. But as we are expanding as well, the strategy of Hexagon is changing, and we have now the agreement that we have with Premier Padel and with FIP, and then there will be more dates on the calendar. There are so many moving parties that we need to make sure all is settled in the calendars and everything is clear, to then make sure that as well the strategy around teams make sense.
Astrid, you just touched on the relationship or the partnership that you as Hexagon Cup formalised with Premier Padel and FIP. Can you talk a little bit about why that relationship now is so important in terms of security, longevity, opportunity to grow the brand and the events? So what will it unlock, and how are you guys going to work together?
As we said at the beginning, so we've been in conversations with them since actually Hexagon was established. Okay, so we have the same target as of having a sustainable growth for Padel. And I think that approach has positioned our events as a more high-end fun experience and hospitality event with the mixed teams, like all what we've talked. So it's not competing, it's more a way of completing the offer of the existing calendar. So with this, with the agreement or with the partnership that we have now, the different things that we're going to be working at, we're going to be working around having additional events where and when it makes sense. Okay, we understand that the calendar is already it's packed, but yes, the idea is to have additional Hexagon Cups, and then depending on the number of teams that we have, that then based as well on what Sergio was saying, that we'll see how it's going to work. Is it going to be like different legs and then a finals in Madrid? So that is definitely one, having that set dates in the calendar moving forward for 2026 and for 2027. As well, looking into the possibility, does it make sense that Hexagon actually gets an official calendar and gives points? That's the discussion we've been having with them. We need to see as well what could be on the table. And then, definitely all the other events, like outside of the official competitions, like it's the Intercontinental Cup now, that we're going to be as well part of all those projects that are being developed in partnership with them. But that's very top line, the conversations we have with them. Maybe, Sergio, you want to deep a little bit more in some of that?
I think the importance of this agreement is having the main players of this ecosystem working together and not against each other. That this is a very rare thing. The natural perspective would be having us as competitors, just competitors, and we think that we really bring to the table a different product, a different tournament and event, and we are not here to compete with the regular circuit of Padel. That's not our standpoint. So for us, having this alliance and having this agreement of collaboration and make Padel grow together is something that, first of all, validates all of us as, I think, smart businessmen. Like, why compete if we can collaborate and grow together? And second, for us, it means that in 2 years we are positioned as what we are, the second main event in the world, and that's something that brings us some new opportunities for go along with Premier and FIP to grow and make Padel at the end Olympic, and it's something that we all want.
And as we get towards the end of this conversation, we've obviously talked a lot about, we've touched in different places about what 2026 holds for the Hexagon Cup. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you can talk about, what people can start to expect for 2026? What will be different? Obviously, we talked about the NextGen will be men's again. There's obviously look out for potential new franchises, although that's not guaranteed, but there may well be announcements around that. What else are we missing, or that we should keep our eyes open for?
We are currently, maybe that's worth mentioning it, working on the Amateur League of Hexagon. So we've acquired, together with Playtomic, an Amateur League, the biggest team amateur league in Spain, and we're developing it in Spain and as well worldwide. So we're going to have it in the UK here as well in the next months. The idea is that this amateur category is as well included in part of the Hexagon Cup. So we are currently this concept of road to Hexagon, and that the amateur can feel like a pro as well, is going to be part of next edition in Madrid as well. And we're then going to see how they're going to be incorporated to our offer. So that is one difference clearly that is going to come. And then as well, we already worked on it in the format this year, but due to the long games was a little bit unseen, but we had a lot of additional fun engagement experiences around the Hexagon Cup, and including all this entertainment as well, being the concerts, the parties afterwards, DJs. And this part is going to be definitely a key part of what we bring as well, again, to the table for the fans attending the Hexagon Cup.
So there is a world in which I could win the amateur road to Hexagon and sit alongside Stupachuk and give him advice while he's playing because I'm part of his team. And
I wouldn't go that far, but yes, they will be in Hexagon and they will be part of Hexagon. But we have to be careful with the players, as we said at the beginning, and give the amateur player the best experience they would have in their lives as a player. And we will see where that can be done.
Sergio's doubt is not around your level style. Don't worry, Alex. It wasn't.
No, I'm sure my input to Stupachuk would be invaluable to him. That's not in question, of course. Is there anything in the 2025 version that you would have changed if you could have?
To be honest, we did not develop any merchandising like for the teams for Hexagon per se, because we were focusing on other parts, and that maybe having specific team merchandising, we were not ready yet there with the brands. And I think maybe that has been a lost opportunity, because the way that fans were already engaging and being part of teams with how they were cheering for them, and how you could clearly see a belonging to them. I think we could have clearly tapped into that, which will be next season, so that we can offer both people there and online to everyone the option of being even more part of the Hexagon Cup. This one, maybe? I don't know, Sergio, if you have another.
I wouldn't change the finals, that's for sure. I think it was great, actually, to have some young females playing for the tiebreaker, and they did a great job, actually. It was a great tiebreaker game. I think I would start the matches earlier in order to end each day like 10 p.m. instead of 11:30, some days 12 p.m. So it was due to a lot of little elements, but easy one is to begin earlier. So maybe that's something that you will find in the next Hexagon Cup 2026.
Okay, I think as we look forward to the edition in 2026, I think this is probably a good place to wrap up the episode. Again, please share and subscribe if the content was thought-provoking. Please comment on LinkedIn if you have any recommendations around our format, topics we should devote an episode to, questions we should ask, speakers we need to bring on. We want you all, those driving the next phase of this industry's future, to tell us what you want to hear about and who from. Thank you, Astrid and Sergio, for joining us today and being so open with us. We will keep doing our best to cover all the angles of the business around Padel, episode after episode. Until the next one, thank you.